What's going on YouTube? So the Toyota RAV4 is a vehicle that needs no introduction since it has long been the best-selling SUV in America. That's why this all-new RAV4 is such a big deal.
And it's such a big deal that we actually bought one recently, and since then we've been putting it through its paces.
So we want to know, is this the king of the segment, and is it a big step forward over the previous RAV4? Well, let's go ahead and find out. And let's get things started as always with a quick spec dump. So under the hood of every 2026 RAV4 will be a hybrid system. We have the 5th gen hybrid system, which is a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine with your electric componentry, making 236 horsepower with our all-wheel drive model. This has an eCVT, and the combined fuel economy rating of this trim level is 41 mpg.
Now the base price of the RAV4 is $32,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now we've owned this car for about 3 weeks, so we have quite a lot of impressions to share in that 3-week period. We'll also discuss our real-world fuel economy and get things like our sound level reading.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood because we need to get started with the exterior design as well as the interior. Now, of course, when a brand is making changes to a model that sells in this kind of volume, they're not going to rock the boat too much. And that really is the case with this all-new RAV4. That being said, there's a lot of different flavors you can get this model in, actually 7 different trim levels. And the one that we purchased, if you didn't watch our initial video, is the XLE Premium. So this is kind of right in the middle of the lineup. It's really the model that most people will buy when they go to the dealership. Now, as far as our impressions on the overall design, as well as other people we showed us to, everyone thinks it's a little bit on the plain Jane side of things, but like I said, you can get many other trim levels that spice it up a little bit more if you want to spend a little bit more money. Now, of course, up in the front, you've got that new grille. It is going to be mostly body color through most of the trim levels, and then that will kind of just seamlessly bleed right into our headlights. This is a new unit with kind of a boomerang overall shape. You have standard projector LED headlights on all models. The high beams are really nice on this as well. The only thing that's kind of missing from this model is that we've got the incandescent turn signal indicator. You do have to upgrade to one of the highest end trim levels to get the full LED unit with all things LED. Also, only the higher end examples will give you the LED fog lamps. Otherwise, most of the trims are going to come with this kind of just black area housing, but no fog light. As we walk around to the back of the new RAV4, this is the angle that I think most people have really liked when they saw this model.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's my favorite angle as well. And let's break down some of the individual design touches. So you have the spoiler up here at the top. You have your rear window wiper. RAV4 is spelled out across the back in silver text to add a lot of contrast. And let's go ahead and take a look at our taillights. So our taillights are actually very premium, and that's across the board in the RAV4 lineup. So that includes your LED brake light, turn signal, and LED reverse light. As we drop down, all of this is going to be a matte black plastic. And as far as your tow capacity, that's also very good. If you choose all-wheel drive, it's up to 3,500 pounds or 1,750 with front-wheel drive.
Now, throughout all those trim levels I was mentioning earlier, you've got 17-inch alloys all the way up to 20-inch alloys. This XLE Premium comes with an 18-inch alloy, and it's got a dark gray finish. That's going to be paired with the kind of thick, squared-off cladding you see around the wheel arches as well as the lower part of the body. Now, as we move up here to our mirrors, the XLE Premium has a gloss black finish to the mirrors. They have standard blind spot monitoring and also heating.
Now at the side, the overall length of the RAV4 is 181 inches, and as far as design touches, we do have blacked out window surrounds. We also do have roof rails on this trim level, and they're going to be finished in a black color. And if you like black, you can also get a two-tone roof. Just be aware it's on your higher end versions of the RAV4. Now, when it comes to your safety systems, Toyota does not mess around. You have all of your active safety features as standard equipment on every single model, including things like adaptive cruise control. Now, over the past 3 weeks, we found those to work quite well. However, we will say it does have a new drive recorder built in, and if you take a corner really aggressively, it's actually going to record that as an incident, which is a little bit too sensitive for our liking, but overall, the safety systems have worked really well. Now, we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to our interior impressions, but first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from sound level readings to cargo measurements, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move on to the interior. First, here's our latest RAV4 key fob. It's got a little bit of a squared off shape, and I realized I had it upside down there, and RAV4 branding right there on the fob itself. You have a standard smart entry system, and we also have remote start via the app, as well as this key fob for the first year. One thing I want to point out is the digital key system. We have been utilizing that, which actually uses the Apple Wallet, and that's worked really well as well. Now let's reach behind the handle there and unlock the door to hop inside, and then we can check out this all-new interior. So first things first, I'm going to start by talking about these seats. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are 7 distinct versions of this RAV4. So you have really a ton of different options on the inside as well. By the way, we've got detailed reviews of most of those trim levels already on the channel. But as far as this XLE Premium is concerned, this has the Softex, which is a faux leather. It's going to cover the entire seat. As you can see, you have perforation in the center section and then some contrast stitching details on the outside edges. We've got the full black option, but you can also get beige or a light gray. As far as the seat adjustments, we have 8 ways of power adjustment with 2-way lumbar support, and memory seats will be reserved for higher end examples. But let's go ahead and climb inside. And now that we're fully inside the cabin, the first thing we need to do is check out the overall cabin materials. Now I have to say, I think this is our biggest complaint so far about this RAV4. And honestly, we put other people inside the car, people that aren't even car people at all, and they've said the same thing, and that is that the cabin materials are not very nice, especially for the price point. So let's start out over here on the door trim. So thankfully, Toyota does cover all the center section with a leatherette material. This is going to be a gray color, kind of contrasting with the seats. But then as far as the upper part of the door trim, this is a hard touch plastic, even on this model, which is $40,000. We also have a black plastic all through here, very scratchy sounding. And then all at the top here, we actually don't even really have a texture. It's just kind of an untextured, glossy plastic. Definitely doesn't look or feel the best, that's for sure. Now through the center section, we have a leatherette with the gray finish. And then down below, it's just gonna be more of the black plastics all throughout. But let's fire it up with the push button start. And now that we're all fired up here, let's take a look first of all at our gauge cluster. Now this is something that's new for this RAV4, and it's not just new just for the RAV4, but actually for the whole Toyota brand. They've redone the software for both the main infotainment system and the gauge cluster. And let me tell you, it's a big improvement over what they've had previously. So this is the 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. It is standard equipment. And you now have these preset designs, which are a lot easier for you actually to cycle through different types of things. This is my favorite design, actually, which now allows you to put Google Maps from Android Auto or Apple CarPlay into the background of the gauge cluster. It's a really nice look overall. Now, one thing I will say is that the screen itself could be a little bit brighter. We're on max brightness right now, and as you can see, since it's not protected, it's a little bit reflective overall. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got a new design on board. It has the leatherette covering. We also optioned on the weather package, which includes steering wheel heating and rain sensing wipers to this XLE Premium. Next up, let's take a look at interior storage. Of course, very important for a vehicle like this. And when we flip open the console, you're going to see quite a lot of donuts inside, 14 donuts to be exact, which is a really good performance and exceeds our dozen donut test. Now, the other thing that this has, you might have seen it in some of our other RAV4 reviews, you can pinch on both sides and actually take the lid off, then snap it in, and you have a little bit of a table. You could maybe eat your lunch or something like that on top of this. Moving forward, we've got a couple cup holders. We have a large storage cubby right there with a texture. The XLE Premium's the first trim that gets a wireless phone charging pad. You can actually get dual wireless pads on the limited trim. And then you have another storage shelf even up there in front of the passenger area. So lots of storage, definitely one of the best in the entire segment for interior storage. Now, coming back to the shifter, it's just a traditional style shifter for most of the trims. It means you pull back for drive, bump over here to the left for manual shift simulation. There are no paddle shifters on the steering wheel for this trim. And then when we go into reverse, you'll see what the regular backup camera looks like. That's what's standard on most trims of this model. We still get active trajectory, and also we get front and rear parking sensors with the XLE Premium. Back behind the shifter, you have your electronic parking brake with brake hold function. And now let's move on up the dashboard, and the next place we'll come to is the climate control system. So this has a dual zone automatic climate system, and one of the big things about this new generation is actually that you have controls partially built into the screen. So you still have these buttons under the screen to adjust the temperature up and down, but other functions are going to be actually inside of the screen itself, such as taking manual control of the fan speed. We haven't been bothered by this. Overall, 90% of the time, we're just adjusting the temperature up and down. So these buttons do the trick. However, the weird thing is, of course, the drive modes prominently are inside of things that almost look like dials that could be climate control. It's kind of weird. They definitely should have done that, I think, overall. Now, we also have heated seats on board. You get heated seats actually standard now on all but the very base LE trim. They have 2 stages, so basically it's just high and low. And then right there in the center section, that's where we have our volume knob. This has the standard 6-speaker sound system, so let's give that a sample and see how it is. Overall, sound quality is not bad, and I think most people will be more than satisfied with this. But of course, if you like audio a lot, then choose a higher end trim with the JBL for an improvement. All right, speaking of improvement, let's talk about the main infotainment. I mentioned earlier that this is a brand new Toyota multimedia interface. It's the very first Toyota or Lexus product to get this new system. Now let me go ahead and navigate to this and show you what that looks like. Visually, it's not a huge difference, but it does have some important updates, including having a brand new home screen, and you can actually customize these tiles with different kinds of information, including weather, your contacts, and drive modes, and overall the system's going to be a lot more responsive. As far as the screen size, this is a 10.5-inch display. Upper trims can get even a little bit of a larger display, and the resolution is overall fine. Now, I do have to point out, in our first 3 weeks of ownership experience, we have had a couple glitches with wireless Android Auto specifically, but in the last few days, it's been working absolutely flawlessly. So just stay tuned to our channel. We'll keep you updated on if this system resolves some of the big problems that we had with our long-term Toyota Camrys wireless systems. But I'm really hopeful that it will be an improvement. Finally, as we wrap up the interior here, we've got a manual dimming mirror. And our tester does not have the sunroof. That's because you can only get an optional panoramic sunroof on the XLE Premium, which is a pretty pricey upgrade.
All right, let's check out the rear seats of the RAV4. So in this area, we have some pretty good legroom figures and headroom figures. So let's start with that. We're sitting at is 38 inches of legroom. And as far as headroom, 39.5 inches of headroom. Certainly, that is a very impressive amount of space. And I really feel like you could easily fit 3 adults back here and be quite comfortable. And anyone we've had ride back here has been comfortable. Now, as far as the actual knee room figure, this seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". I'm 5'9" for reference, and we are looking at about 6 inches of knee space. Also, my feet can easily slide up underneath of the seats. Speaking of the seats, both the front and the rear seats are quite comfortable for this new generation, and you can recline them, although it's not a ton, definitely not as much as the Honda CR-V. Now, if we fold down the center armrest, you have 2 cup holders inside, and let's talk about other features. As long as you choose anything but the base model, you'll get the USB ports here in the back. You also get vents, so that's pretty nice that they're including that. And if you look over at the door trim, hard touch on the upper part, just like the front. However, the entire center section is going to be a leatherette. And then there's also quite a lot of door storage down in the bottom. Now walking up to the tailgate, this trim level gets the power tailgate, and let's go ahead and talk about the overall cargo capacity for the new generation of RAV4. Now this has been improved as compared to the outgoing model, so we're looking at is about 38 cubic feet of cargo space behind the second row of seats. If we fold those seats down, you have a maximum of 70 cubic feet of space. If you choose the plug-in hybrid variant, that is reduce your capacity a little bit to about 63 cubic feet as a maximum, so keep that in mind. And compared to the rivals, that is going to be middle of the pack. It's not the best, but it's certainly not the worst. Now, speaking of all of the numerous competitors you can look at in this segment, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We put this car against things like the Honda CR-V, Hyundai Tucson, Kia Sportage, all the main competitors, and you can see the specific categories where they excel, whether that be cargo capacity, interior technology, luxury features, powertrain choices, or value, and pick based on what is most important to you. So if you want to make an informed buying decision, definitely check that out at carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, there are not any handles to fold the second row of seats, so I will have to just kind of reach up here and fold them down. They do fold 60-40 split. Let's see if I can do it. Yes. I am tall enough to get that done, so that's pretty good. And let's go ahead and get our cargo length, width, and height figures. So as far as cargo length is concerned, what we're looking at behind Drew's seating position is 74 inches of length. From behind the second row of seats, 32 inches of length. The opening is 44 inches wide. The height, 31 inches tall, so that's a very good height figure. And let's get our load-in height as well. I have a suspicion that's going to be pretty solid. Yeah, 29 inches is your load-in height, and I love the fact that underneath the floor, well, you have a little bit of extra space, but you also have a spare tire. That's really something that a lot of the hybrid competition has gotten rid of. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of our very own Toyota RAV4. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading, but first we need to show you a hard acceleration.
$60 miles an hour.
Nice.
Yeah, so this all-new RAV4 has pretty swift acceleration as standard equipment, and that's because of the new standard 5th generation hybrid system that we mentioned at the beginning of this video. So what this is made of is a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine with your electric componentry. It's either making 226 horsepower if you have front wheel drive or 236 horsepower if you have all-wheel drive. And regardless of which one you choose, those are really good power figures for this class.
Yeah.
You know, some of the lower powered vehicles that are standard, those are going to be in like the 170s, the 180s. The last gen was 203 horsepower.
Yeah, so those are really great numbers. Of course, you are switching to a standard hybrid system. So compared to some of those hybridized rivals, this is going to still be one of the more powerful choices, that's for sure. And as you can see from that acceleration, that all-electric torque just really gets you off the line. When we first drove this RAV4 at the Media Drive in Phoenix, we were very impressed with it. And I have to say, after living with it as well, I'm very impressed with the amount of peppiness that this powertrain has. Now, we do have the all-wheel drive variant, so we have the 236 horsepower, but it's very quick actually for the segment.
Right, so 0 to 60 is 7.1 seconds. Yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to be surprised at just how much pickup this RAV4 has.
Now, of course, they are also offering a different powertrain. That's the plug-in hybrid variant. That's going to have even more horsepower. That comes in at 324 horsepower. We have reviews on our channel of that plug-in hybrid if you'd like to check that out. But obviously, we just went for the volume-selling model, which will be the standard hybrid powertrain. And, you know, overall, I'm very happy with our decision, quite frankly, even though the plug-in hybrid is very good.
Right. Of course, we previously had a 2025 Toyota Camry that also had Toyota's hybrid system. It's, long known to be pretty much kind of the best in the industry in the sense of really delivering that long-term reliability and just excellent fuel economy, which we'll get into that a little later on.
And I will say, compared to the Camry, we all thought after we drove this vehicle for the past 3 weeks that this powertrain kind of is a little bit quieter than what was in our Camry. I don't know if they added some extra sound deadening or did some different tuning, but it does seem to blend a little bit more into the background than the Camry did. That's one of the areas that we've complained in a lot of Toyota hybrids, is the fact that they are kind of loud, and it is still loud under hard acceleration, but I will say I think they've improved upon it.
Yeah, and it's able to stay in EV power quite a bit, and you can really be going at some pretty high speeds and it will still be under EV, and then when it does switch over to the gas like it just did, it's super smooth.
But we're just cruising down our designated strip of road to talk about ride quality, and I think that's an area that I'm also very impressed with after living with it. We've drove it over all types of road surfaces, on rough roads, smooth roads, more like this, and I have to say, very good ride quality. Toyota has kind of done a great job of balancing dynamics with the ride quality. Some in the segment, like Mazdas, tend to go too far on the dynamic side for most people, and I think this really just strikes a great balance. The ride is fantastic, especially if you choose an XLE. We have the smaller wheels on the outside. We're not like the huge 20s that you can get in this segment, and I really do feel like the ride is going to be very good for most families. Also, these seats are very comfortable as well.
There's an acceleration with the sport mode to give you a demonstration about that. And that takes us to the part of the road where we like to do our sound level reading. So
yes,
we'll go ahead and get everything back to its normal drive mode here.
Yeah. There we go. Got it back. All right, and we'll get our sound level reading. All right, I gave us a nice long sample there to get our official sound level reading for the Camry, and it's going to come in at 55 decibels for this model. Now, this, of course, is back home in Kentucky. So previously we tested out the RAV4. It was in Phoenix, so that's not exactly a fair test. And I have to say that's a pretty good sound level reading for this segment. It's not going to be exactly class leading, but that's definitely an improvement over most of the options that you can get. And one of the notes that I have is the fact that XLE and XSE trims in the higher end versions get acoustic glass to kind of quiet down the cabin. I think we've kind of noticed that as well, but this does feel a little bit quieter than previous RAV4s that we've been in.
And of course, another thing is that the engine can be off quite a bit, so when you're going downhill like that, you're going to shut the engine off. It's going to be nice and quiet. And it's just one of the many benefits of the hybrid system. Of course, if you're one of the people that is a little concerned about a standard hybrid this year, I would just tell you, rest assured Toyota's been using versions of their hybrid system in millions and millions of vehicles, including over 50% of the previous generation RAV4 were already selling above that with hybrids anyways. So this really isn't as big of a step as you might think.
Yeah, and it is going to be a big step in the right direction when it comes to fuel economy, because let's go ahead and talk about that. So what we're sitting at for this particular tester is 41 miles per gallon combined is our EPA estimate. Now, it does depend largely on what trim level you select. There's a ton of different trim levels. You can see some of those fuel economies on the screen right now, but overall, that's fantastic fuel economy. It's really going to best all of the other hybrid options that you can get in the segment. It's better than CR-V. It's better than Hyundai Tucson, Kia Sportage, and what's been our real-world experienced fuel economy? Well, we've gone through most of the first tank of gas that we've had. We've driven it a little over 400 miles, and we are sitting right at 41 miles per gallon combined. So that is exactly at the EPA estimate for this vehicle. And, to be experiencing that in the real world, in addition to it already being better EPA rated than all of its competitors, I think that's a huge benefit for buyers in this segment. I'm very impressed with that. Also, the fuel tank size, I will go ahead and mention that the fuel range is great on this car. It's sitting, very close to like 600 miles on a full tank of gas. So, we have 430 miles at the time of us doing this right now, and we still have over 100 miles left of gas range. Now, even though that's some fantastic fuel economy, I'm sure a lot of you guys might want to save even more. So you should download Upside, a free cashback app. We routinely use Upside to save 10, 20, even 30 cents a gallon on gas in our area. We even use it for groceries and eating out, so we can save more and spend less on the things that don't matter to us. It's super convenient and easy to use, and as an added bonus, Upside is offering Car Confections viewers an extra 25 cents off per gallon of gas on your first tank by scanning the QR code on the screen or using code CARConfections when you sign up. All right, it's Car Confections review after all, so what's our airball and slam dunk, our least favorite and favorite element? Drew, kick us off with the slam dunk for the RAV4.
The slam dunk's just got to be how well-rounded this vehicle is. After owning it, we just couldn't help but think, there could be like endless numbers of like lifestyles and people. You can just see why they sell so many of these, because it's such a good fit for so many different kinds of people, and that is only getting better with the new generation.
Absolutely. Now, there is one area that we're not a fan of, and that's the materials. You probably saw us talk about it inside, when we first got in, but they've really, cheaped out on a lot of the materials, even compared to the previous generation, and that certainly wasn't a class leader by any stretch of the imagination. So I wish they had kind of increased the ambience of this cabin just a little bit more, and I think it would very solidly be like the obvious choice for most people if they did that. So after our first 3 weeks of owning it, do we like it better, the same, or worse? Well, I have to say, for the three of us, we certainly do like this better. Now, there are some things that we don't love, like the materials. However, I think they really have nailed the overall package of this vehicle. And quite frankly, I think we like it a lot better than our Camry that we traded in for this RAV4, just because it excels so much in the practicality and comfort side of things. And now let's talk pricing. So we started around $32,000, and there's a ton of trim levels. They all have different prices. You can see those on the screen right now. And of course, it elevates pretty quickly if you go for a fully loaded example. Like Drew said at the beginning of this video, we have a very popular spec. So this is the RAV4 XLE Premium, and we also didn't go for a ton of options. It's all-wheel drive, and then we went for that 375 option, 1450 destination, 39,325 as kind of the volume selling model. If you're curious as to where this is assembled, it is in Canada, but there are versions made in Japan, and they will be making it actually in Kentucky as well. And if you're looking to buy a RAV4 or any vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use if you plan on doing any dealership negotiating. There's also things like a monthly payment tool, so you can find all of that at carconfections.com/newcarquotes. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale, reliability, and the warranty. First up, let's talk about resale value. Toyota as a brand is rated at 64.5% of estimated retained value after 5 years and 60,000 miles, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 41.4%. Those are really great figures. It's actually second best in the overall 5-year metric as compared to every other brand on the market.
Now, the same can also be said about reliability. With our latest 2026 data, Toyota is rated as one of the very highest rated brands overall for reliability.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability information, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Now, also important is your warranty, and that's going to be a 3-year 36,000 mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain. Additionally, you do get 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. Well, guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of our very own 2026 Toyota RAV4. If you enjoyed watching this video, we'd really encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below, because we own this vehicle and we'll be making a ton more RAV4 content that I promise you won't want to miss out on. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.